Welcome to Arkansas Wildlife. We've been doing a lot of fishing this spring on Arkansas Wildlife, and we've got some more fishing in store for you this week, but a little bit different type of fishing. We're going to be fishing with research in mind. We're going to head out with the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission's Alligator Gar research team and see what they're doing to keep up with an ancient species that's been described as a living fossil.
They're the largest fish we've got. They're cool, they're long-lived, they're ancient. They've been around for millions of years.
But first, we're going to head up to the Little Red River near Heber Springs and check in with a group called the Arkansas Freedom Fund. You know, Memorial Day is just around the corner, and we're going to see what this group is doing to connect Arkansas veterans with the great outdoors.
It's absolutely a therapy. It's getting back to something I love doing, you know. I mean, it's spiritual being out here for me. I don't have to catch fish, I can just be outside. But it's always better to catch fish.
All that and this week's winner of a free hunting and fishing license right after this break. Arkansas Wildlife is brought to you in part by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Right stuff, low price, every day. Academy. The Little Red River's cool waters are known far and wide for their incredible trout fishing. But these waters also have the power to heal. For the men and women of the U.S. Armed Forces, returning home often presents its share of challenges. The Arkansas Freedom Fund is helping veterans overcome those obstacles through the simple pleasure of the great outdoors.
They don't get an opportunity themselves to go out, or they're always by themselves, and they can't get out to do the things that they want to do outdoors.
There you go. Stay on.
There he is.
Stop reeling. Stop reeling.
There we go. There we go.
The Arkansas Freedom Fund is a nonprofit organization dedicated to restoring the mental and physical well-being of Arkansas veterans. For the past few years, the group has been trying to meet that goal through an annual trout fishing trip on the Little Red River. With the help of the Heber Springs United Methodist Men's Group, as well as a host of Little Red River fishing guides, the Freedom Fund is helping veterans distance themselves from their struggles by getting closer to nature.
They talk, they communicate, they feel the camaraderie, they enjoy the activity. It then builds them up to where they want to come and do another event, so they get, again, to have fun, to talk about their issues, their struggles, dealings they have with VA or hospitals, what works for them in recovery, what doesn't work for them, and then to get out and experience Arkansas. This is a great state to do this in. The freedom, the serenity, the water, the camaraderie, it lifts these guys' spirits up. They just enjoy it so much.
I think it helps the healing process tremendously, because I do work at the VA, and I do work with some of the veterans that are out here today, and they've really enjoyed it. It's really helped them tremendously.
Oh, it's absolutely a therapy. It's getting back to something I love doing, you know. I mean, it's spiritual being out here for me. I don't have to catch fish, I can just be outside. But it's always better to catch fish. But I don't know, it just gets me back in touch with nature, and fellowshipping with other vets is always good. I mean, there's a bond with us. It doesn't matter if you're in the Marines, Army, Navy. When we were in, we might have fought, but now that you're out, we're all brothers and sisters. And it doesn't matter if you served with somebody, you just have that automatic bond of being in the service.
It's a big stress reliever. You kind of forget about the problems and stuff you can have at home in the world, and the only thing that exists is you and that rod and that fish at that moment. It's real calm and soothing.
fresh Arkansas air, the soothing ripple of the Little Red River, the pull of a sturdy trout, and the common bond of military service.
These guys, when they go out and they do these things, the laughter in their voice, the feelings that they get, that's what makes it all worthwhile.
You know, for a while, once I got back home, it's like I didn't want to do anything. Sit there and look at the TV, and doing this makes you want to get back out and do stuff again.
Arkansas Wildlife is brought to you in part by Zimmerman Sports Center on South University in Little Rock. These Arkansas Game and Fish Commission biologists are in search of living fossils.
Below the dam and in the old river channel is where we've had the most luck.
Game and fish crews typically use electrofishing boats or commercial fishing nets to capture their research subjects. But today's target is no ordinary quarry, so the fishing techniques differ from the usual methods.
We're jugging for alligator gar, the state's largest freshwater fish. And we're using jug system, using bullet floats, about 3 feet a leader, a steel leader, and a 5/0 treble hook baited with rough fish. This is buffalo. We'll set these out in the river channel and let them float and see what kind of gator gar we catch.
Alligator gar don't exactly invoke warm and fuzzy feelings. From their incredible size to their formidable teeth, alligator gar usually inspire more fear than admiration. While alligator gar may not be the most attractive fish in Arkansas waters, there's plenty to respect about this species.
They're the largest fish we've got. They're cool, they're long-lived, they're ancient. They've been around for millions of years looking at fossil records. This species is a long-lived. It persists where no other species will persist.
And they've persisted for a very long time. Fossil records indicate alligator gar have been around for more than 100 million years, which is why the species is often called a living fossil. But if recent population declines aren't halted, the fossil record may be future generations' only link to these prehistoric survivors. Despite living on Earth since the early Cretaceous period, alligator gar have seen far better times. Habitat changes in major rivers have limited the species' ability to spawn. Combine that with a largely unwarranted reputation as a predator of popular sport fish, and you have the makings for the current downward trend in alligator gar populations.
As the employees of the Game and Fish Commission, we have been charged with conserving and protecting all species of animals in the state of Arkansas. When we see a species declining like alligator gar has been across its range, it is our primary task to try to conserve this species throughout the state.
Although not listed as an endangered or threatened species, alligator gar aren't nearly as common in Arkansas as they once were. That's part of the reason Game and Fish biologist Eric Brinkman has assembled the agency's alligator gar management team here on the lower Ouachita River near Felsenthal Lock and Dam. Little research has been conducted on the state's alligator gar population, so Brinkman's team is gathering data to gain a better understanding of how many fish exist in Arkansas's rivers and which habitats they prefer. But first, you have to catch them. The alligator gar management team employs a fishing method that incorporates jug fishing and traditional rod and reel fishing. After baiting the jug lines with rough fish such as shad, buffalo, and carp, the crews throw out the floats and the waiting game begins. As the floats drift downstream in the current, the crews keep a watchful eye, waiting for an alligator gar to take the bait. When that happens, a crew will wait as long as 15 minutes for a fish to hook itself before tracking down the jug and clipping a line to the float. And that's when things get interesting. After a successful capture, The crews take the alligator gar for a short boat ride to a makeshift laboratory on the riverbank.
41,
Weights and measurements are taken.
725 on girth.
But sizing up a massive gar isn't the easiest task.
You straightened up 7 for us.
By taking a small tissue sample from the fish's pectoral fin, biologists can determine the genetic makeup of fish and look for similarities and differences between fish from different waterways.
We're doing a genetic survey of all the alligator gar in Arkansas. We're trying to get 30 tissue samples, just little bitty fin clips that we're sending off to a lab that will look at the genetic diversity across the state, across drainages, even compare it to other states and their alligator gar populations.
To keep track of individual fish over time, biologists implant a small transponder into each alligator gar they catch.
This little tag right here we're going to stick near his tail fin, and this has got a unique number that we can identify this fish. If we catch him later on, we can see what kind of growth rates he's had.
Through this kind of work, the gar management team has estimated that the lower Ouachita River alligator gar population consists of just a few hundred fish, which is the reason this type of research is only getting started. Arkansas Wildlife is brought to you in part by Arkansas's own PK Grills, maker of the new PK 360, the best and last grill you'll ever buy. The Arkansas Game and Fish Commission's Alligator Gar research is helping the agency's biologists gain a better understanding of a fish that's becoming less common in Arkansas waters.
Range-wide, the populations are getting smaller, less frequent.
But it's not easy to get your hands on a fish that can exceed 8 feet in length and weigh more than 300 pounds. The Game and Fish Commission's Alligator Gar management team uses a system of jug lines and rod and reels to capture its fish. It's obviously the highlight of the team's research. In addition to gathering data from each fish, the Gator Gar team also implants transmitters in some fish. Stationary receivers can tell researchers when a fish has passed near a specific area, and portable tracking devices help the team pinpoint fish. Together, the data are helping the Game and Fish Commission develop population models and determine which habitats are most important to this ancient species.
Alligator gar breathe air, so they're quite fine. As long as you keep them moist, they should not die.
But why should we be concerned with the fish that many have historically considered bad? Although it's now considered shameful history, there was a time when some state conservation agencies encouraged anglers to kill gar.
We're still battling that stigma of alligator, ball gar in general being, just a trash fish, not worth anything but killing. This is the apex predator in the population, and you need that apex predator to help control the other fish species. You don't want any species to get out of control. I can't say that they won't eat a sport fish when they have the opportunity. They will. All fish will eat other sport fish when they have an opportunity. Now, the majority of their diet is what is most abundant in the water bodies that they're in. It's usually shad, buffalo, carp, and other rough fish that are not being utilized by anything else.
The Arkansas Game and Fish Commission has established a conservative 1 alligator gar per day regulation, and any recreational angler who attempts to catch one must first obtain a free alligator gar permit. Between May 1st and July 1st, during the alligator gar spawn, all gar over 36 inches must be immediately released. About 500 anglers a year receive an alligator gar permit, and about 5% of them actually catch one.
On a population that may only reproduce every 7 to 10 years, what may seem an insignificant amount of take can build up over time and impact a population that may only be a few hundred fish.
The alligator gar's life history and man-made habitat changes are the biggest contributing factors in the species' spawning limitations. Alligator gar males don't reach sexual maturity until about 7 years, and it's double that for females. Because alligator gar rely on a river's floodplain for spawning activities, they can't spawn as often as they did before humans altered many of the South's major rivers.
The populations have been impacted significantly by what humans have done across the aquatic landscape. Dredging, channelization, levees, all that disconnects the rivers from the floodplains, which this species is very dependent on that floodplain, particularly for spawning. They need that flooding period that we've tried to control and limit for reproduction, and we're just not getting the consistent flooding like we did 100 years ago.
Alligator gar aren't just an important part of the ecosystem. They're also a remarkable fish, worthy of conservation efforts in their own right. They're not only Arkansas's largest fish, but also the state's longest-lived fish species. Game and fish biologists have aged 1 alligator gar at 68 years. This specimen, caught by a commercial fisherman on the White River in 2004, measured 8 feet 2 inches and weighed a whopping 240 pounds. The Game and Fish Alligator Gar team hopes fish like that will entice more anglers to respect the species and seek out alligator gar for their sport fishing potential.
This is just a really cool fish. It fights good. It's historically had a tremendous trophy fishery in the state, especially on the White River in the 40s and 50s. We have them here. We want to utilize them on a conservative basis, provide another opportunity for our anglers to go after a trophy fish in the state of Arkansas.
To reach that end, Arkansas's Alligator Gar team will continue its research. Today, it's the lower Ouachita River, but these fish also inhabit the White, Arkansas, Red, Mississippi, Cache, and St. Francis rivers. Where the Gar team hasn't been, they'll soon be, taking stock of these living fossils and ensuring the alligator gar's future for generations to come. Arkansas Wildlife presents the Watch and Win giveaway. During each episode of Arkansas Wildlife, we'll give away an Arkansas resident hunting and fishing license, a $35.50 value provided by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Visit the Arkansas Wildlife webpage at agfc.com/Arkansas Wildlife TV and click on the Watch and Win icon to enter. This week's winner is Terry Gillian from Ullum. Congratulations and thanks for watching.